Hey everybody, just welcoming Byron into the store today. Byron, if you were watching last week or so, Byron posted a really amazing tribute to the passing of Chadwick Boseman. It was really amazing and everybody was really putting some really great comments, so we thought we'd have Byron in to talk a little bit more about his hobby of action figure photography and kind of how he got started and how you can too, maybe. So, Byron, thank you for coming in. Really great work you've done. We've been really impressed with what you can do with action figures. How in the world did you get started with this whole thing?
I've always been into action figures, and when I was a kid, and I think I still have this photo to this day. Back in the day when we had Polaroids, where you took the picture and it came out. And,
Oh yeah.
yeah. So what I did was one day we were playing, had a bunch of action figures, and I took a photo, and I just always wanted to capture the moment with them. But I would say probably maybe about around 2007, I said the figures that they were coming out with looked so good. I said, man, I gotta try to take a picture. And when I did with my cell phone, I was like, wait a minute, and it just snowballed. But the thing that has made me get better at it is this is a passion of mine. Rain, sleet, or snow, feeling good, feeling bad, I can do this because it's my passion. And because it's my passion, it just took me.
Wow, that's great. So, how did you start out? What do you look for in figures to use in your work?
Number one, they have to be figures that I like. Like for example, I love the X-Men, so anything X-Men I buy. And when I buy figures that I like, I'm automatically thinking up storylines in my mind about how I can put them together, or they're just scenes that come to mind. And then sometimes there have been figures that I'm really not into or don't really know about, but they just look so cool. And I said, man, if I get one of them to fight Wolverine, and I could do a scene, and it's always... It's two things. It's about, number one, do I like the figure? And then number two, it's about the scene. If I can make it work in a scene, most likely I'm a get it. So it's the figure and the potential for how I can use it in a scene.
Oh, okay. And then how has it changed over the years? You said you've been doing it since 2000...
That's 2007.
2007?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's 13 years of work. So what...
Yeah.
How have you grown as an artist through all that? What changes have you made and all that sort of thing?
The way I have grown is I pay attention to everything. I believe what makes photos powerful is your attention to detail. And I pay attention to everything. I remember one time I went to the Dallas Zoo, and I'm walking around and like, ooh, I could use that in a scene, or I could take some pictures. I just start seeing places where I could take pictures. And when I see the scenes, places where I could take pictures, then in my mind, I start thinking about how I can make the scene. Now, when I first started, I would just kind of take pictures anywhere. But now that what I see in my mind, I have to find an environment around me, and then I take it from there. So over the years, the way I've gotten better, of course, technology has gotten better. I don't use a professional camera. Everything I've shot from my iPhone. And so as phones have gotten better, my photos have gotten better. And then too, I've also learned I don't throw anything away. Pieces from other figures or weapons and all that, what I could throw away today, somehow I end up using tomorrow. So I've just learned to use everything and develop an eye for what I want around me.
Oh, okay. Now you talk about going anywhere, just doing about anything. Do you carry some with you at all times, just in case the mood strikes?
You know what? That's a that's a real good question. 9 times out of 10, if I'm gonna go someplace where there is the potential where I could take a picture, I normally have some figures with me. Like, because I'm in ministry, sometimes I go speak at youth retreats, and these youth retreats a lot of times are in wooded areas. So since they're in wooded areas, I'm like, what figures could I take that would look good in a wooded area? And then but the only problem is, I may just want to take 2, but then a storyline starts forming, and I start grabbing others. But a real good example of that is, when I go speak in Minnesota, sometimes I go speak in Minnesota like every other year, and I always go like right after Christmas, right before New Year's, and so it snows up there. We don't get snow here where I live in Texas anymore. So last year when I went, I had this huge ice troll from Mythic Legions that I've always wanted to use, but I can't use an ice troll in regular woods. So since I knew I was going up there, I asked them, would you take me? You all, they took me on one of the coldest days when it was snowing, but you all, I got the best pictures with that ice troll because I knew where I was going. I knew the environment. I took a figure that I could shoot in that environment. So yeah, I always try to keep some plastic with me. Yeah. Yeah.
Now let's talk about your most recent, most ambitious project, as you've called it, your tribute to Chadwick Boseman and his portrayal of Black Panther.
Yes.
What kind of planning went into that? Because there's a lot of detail with character selection, posing, even the backgrounds and props and things use the entire thing. Like, it seems like it was quite the undertaking. So how did you even begin to kind of formulate or plot that one out?
When I got word of his death, I knew I wanted to do my own tribute like I did for Stan Lee. And I didn't realize it at the time, but long before he died, I was buying up all the Black Panther action figures, the Build-A-Figure wave that came out. So I was buying up all these figures, but I had no idea that I would use them like I have in that photo shoot. So what I did was, I knew I wanted to do a tribute, but I said, exactly what do I want to communicate? And because he had died, and he was the first cinematic Black Panther, I said, I want to use the figures to give him a good send-off. So I just got to thinking about what I could do, and I started thinking about what I have. And you all had this one coffee table that was the floor, and it just started building for that. I went to Michael's and bought some pillars, then I bought some fabric. And one thing about me in photography is when I start making a scene, instead of me commanding the scene starts to command me. I start, wait, I could put a bush here and giraffes here, and before I knew it, it just grew. But because his death was felt just across the board, I wanted Marvel to be there across the board. So I had the Avengers come, S.H.I.E.L.D. come, the X-Men come, the Fantastic Four come. And I even brought in DC characters to pay their respects, because in my mind, in the Byronian kingdom, heroes are heroes. And yes, I love Marvel. Yes, I love DC. But though I'm pro Marvel. I love DC, but I'm pro Marvel. But yet and still, at the end of the day, they're both, all of them are heroes. You got the good that fights the evil, and as long as you're fighting evil, you're down with me. So that's why I did that. That's how all of that came about to be. But it was and the filming, the shooting was, it was mental, it was emotional, and because it's my passion, it would not let me sleep at night. Most of those shots were taken about from between 11 and 2 in the morning. Yeah, so it was good.
Do you know how many shots you ended up taking? I lost count personally, but
I know I have probably right at or a little over 200 photos. 200. I'm almost certain I have over 200 photos. But if you go back and look at the tribute, though that sounds like a lot of pictures, the angles and what I was trying to communicate, and people walking up and walking away, and the zooming in, the zooming out, there's no way I could have made it as effective as I made it with just a few photos. That took a lot.
Right. For anyone who hasn't seen it, you do a really great job of capturing like the small, more intimate moments. Maybe a hand resting on a shoulder or that sort of thing, or a head nod. It's not just kind of like a wide shot of all these figures standing around a Black Panther laying on its back, like maybe some kids have done, because that's the extent of their ability, of course. But so there's that kind of baseline tribute. But what you've done is you've kind of elevated it to more like, it's like almost scenes out of a movie of some sort, where you have, just like I said, those real small moments kind of captured, as opposed to just the more macro moments.
And the reason why I do that is because I think in life, it's the big things that speak the loudest. It's the small things that make the loudest statements, a tilting of the head, the way body, and because they're figures and you can't change their facial expression, and their bodies are articulated and they can move certain ways, everything, any emotion I want to communicate from them has to come from how I position them. So I'm real big on positioning, and you know, you can't make them smile and all this kind of stuff. So how you tilt the head, move the body, position the body, all of that communicates. And a lot of people ask me, why don't you put commentary, or why don't you put thought bubbles? Number one, that's a lot of work. Number two, I'm not on that level. And number three, I like when the nonverbal statement makes a statement. Because a lot of times people say, man, when I saw that picture, I thought this. And I say to myself, that's exactly what I wanted you to think. So, yeah.
Wow.
There's a certain psychology behind it.
Right.
Yeah.
So, what would you say to those who see the work you've done with Black Panther and all your previous work? It goes back, like you said, many, many years. When people see that kind of thing and wonder how they could start kind of doing something like that on their own, what kind of advice or what kind of encouragement do you have for those people?
Number one, what I would say is make sure that it's something that you love. My brother tells me all the time, he says, I love what you do, but I couldn't do it. He says, because it takes a lot of patience, it takes a lot of time, and it's hard to really get into that. But what I would say to you is this. Number one, make sure it's your passion. Number two, you have to be willing to invest in it. And when I say invest in it, a lot of things that have made my photos so effective are little details. I've spent money on dioramas. I've spent money on little miniatures. I've spent money on some custom pieces and some custom work. Why? Because I want the photos to be top notch. But I don't mind spending the money. I don't mind dealing with the elements, and I don't mind the painstaking patience that it takes, because it's my passion. When it's your passion, no price is too high. But if you're doing it for any other reason other than it being your passion, it's not going to work. So I just say, number one, make sure this is your passion. Number two, start adding to your collection the various things that you want to photograph. And then number three, hook up with other people that are doing this, that can give you pointers. And even on my Instagram, I tell people, if you see something you think I can improve on, or if you have a suggestion that you can give me that will make me better, I'm all open for it. Because at the end of the day, I want the best shots that I can possibly get. And this is the last thing I'm going to say. I've been amazed at some of the places I've gone and some of the things that I've done just to get the right shot. And I've even risked a few figures. I take care of them, don't get me wrong, but I've taken some chances just so I could get that right shot.
Okay, wait. Now, you can't say that without sharing a story of what you possibly did that would risk something you love so much for something you love so much.
I tell you what, there is a character from World of Warcraft. I think her name is Sylvanas. She's a blue-like elf. I love her. There's this one video where she's fighting and turning into a ghost-like. And anyway, I had a figure of her from NECA. And NECA makes good stuff, but NECA stuff can break too. And I had her on a branch looking down at this camp that she was about to attack. And I put on the branch, and she was secure, but she wasn't secure enough. But I said, you know what? I'm going to take this chance. Turn my back, go do something. And then I heard a she fell, broke one of her feet off. And though it was a clean break and I could glue it back, it still bothered me because I took a risk. And anytime you're shooting on rock or shooting on concrete or shooting into what I call treacherous areas, you run some risk. But one thing I always do, I take care of my figures. You see, if you're going to do this stuff, you got to take care of what you have. You don't let your kids play with this. You know, this is, yeah.
Well, that's great, Byron. Thank you for all the inside information. Quick question: what do you have coming up down the pike for Byron Ronian's next adventure in the world of photography?
Because I'm so excited about the Hasbro Sentinels that are coming out that you can only get through their Hasbro Pulse Kickstarter like deal. I'm mixing a storyline between Ultron from Marvel, Terminators, G.I. Joe, the X-Men, and the Transformers. And I'm starting now to take photos in a storyline that is going to lead all the way up to next fall when those Sentinels come out. Now, just to give you a sneak peek, and this is only for comic book people who know this, can you imagine if Ultron hooked up with Megatron, got Transformer technology, and gave that kind of AI to Sentinels? Can you, and then put that same AI in Terminator? Yeah, it's gonna be devastating. That is going to challenge me because I'm gonna have to do stuff I've never done before, and there are things I'm gonna have to buy that I've never bought before, like explosives and then if I'm able to go to Arizona for Thanksgiving, part of that storyline is gonna be there, and it's gonna be I can't even describe it. What I see, I feel like James Cameron. What I see in my mind, do I have what it takes to create? This storyline is going to be like no other. It's going to be dangerous, like weapons in the hands of Danny Glover.
Well, thank you, Byron, for coming in and sharing all your great experience and all your great projects. And I'm sure we can't wait to see what you do next.
Oh, thank you for having me. So just stay tuned because it's coming like a storm.